there's a mixture of luck and talent, and if you understand that, then you know you gotta treat it with respect. It's almost as something sacred.
Michael Connelly, an author who has taken the reading and streaming world by storm with his captivating crime novels. Is there a favorite?
You know what? I try not to have a favorite, but I can't help it because, I've been writing about Harry Bosch. I'm so lucky. He's the guy who brought me here.
Besides his iconic characters, the City of Angels helps bring his stories to life.
I always say the city of Los Angeles is a character, but it's really a vehicle for saying who Harry Bosch is, or Mickey Haller, or Renée Ballard.
And even after 3 decades of writing, Connelly is far from done.
Pretty much can order my life the way I want to, and so as long as that keeps up, I'll be writing these stories.
Wow. Welcome to The Conversation with Pat Harvey. In this series, I will dive into various topics and issues with my guests in a more intimate and unfiltered setting. And I am so happy to say my guest today is a best-selling crime fiction author who has sold nearly 90 million copies of his books worldwide. He's the man behind the iconic characters like Harry Bosch and Mickey Haller. Please welcome Michael Connelly.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I am so happy to have you here today. So, Michael, 41 books and counting, multiple TV series. Is this something that you imagined when you start writing 30 years ago?
I don't think anyone could imagine, what's happened. It's been an amazing ride, and I've had a lot of luck, a lot of breaks. I have some talent, I think, but it's got to be a mixture of all that to be where I'm at now. And so I do. Sometimes I can't believe it.
Oh, that was so humble of you to say that when you have so many fans all over the world. I will ask you this question. I think I read where your mother had something to do with you being interested in writing crime novels?
Oh yeah, she, it's funny, in my memory, I don't have any memories of my mom where she wasn't holding a book. Mm-hmm. And she loved mysteries and so forth, and so some of my earliest reading on my own outside of school was picking up the books she had read, and they're always paperbacks all over the house.
Okay. Now, I know your father, though, necessarily, he was a developer, right? A builder. And did he have ideas for you to maybe go in the same thing, or engineering or something?
Yeah, I had my own ideas too. I mean, I grew up working with him on some of his construction sites. I went off to school to get an engineering degree, and something, you get away from home, you're in college, your mind expands, and after about a year, I said, I don't want to build houses, I would rather build stories. And but my father was very supportive of that. I think he was a frustrated artist himself. And so he was the one who said, you know what, I was very clear I wanted to write crime novels because that's what I'd been reading through my mom and so forth. And he said, go back into journalism and get a press pass and get into police stations and courtrooms, and it might set you up to take what is pretty much a long shot. And it was great advice. It worked out.
I was going to say, I wish my father had told me that. It was a very different story.
Yeah.
Going into journalism, it was like, you're going into what?
Yeah.
But you grew up in Philadelphia, and then you moved to Fort Lauderdale. Is that where you really got the interest or knew that you can write?
Yeah, and it was, I moved down there when I was 12, and I also went to a period of my life, I went through 4 schools in 4 years. Wow. And so I was kind of like a loner or an outsider, and what's the companion to someone like that? Books. So that was really the foundation. And then I actually, when I was 16, I was a witness to a crime, and I ended up spending a night in a police station with detectives, and that did it. I was
so
like,
they were asking you questions then?
Yeah, and they had lineups. There was a shooting, and I saw the guy hiding a gun. I didn't see any of the violence.
Wow.
But I ended up doing several lineups and saying, is that guy it, or that kind of thing. And it just went on through the night, and I didn't mind because I was kind of fascinated.
I was going to say, but at that time, when your dad suggested you get the press pass, had that happened, or was this?
No, not yet.
Okay.
These are little things that had add up. So I was 16 and I didn't have that moment where I said, I want to do this, or I want, I was reading Raymond Chandler's books in college. And when I finished reading them, that's when I said I want to do this. And so it was 3 years after my night in the police station.
Well, talk about a learning curve and actually getting material for what you would write later. I think I read where you were a reader, you didn't know you would be a writer. There's a difference in, being interested in that genre and actually writing.
Yeah, I think, especially, I know a lot of writers because, we go to conventions and stuff, and I feel like I'm a late bloomer. Most of them say, oh yeah, as soon as I could hold a crayon, I knew I wanted to be a writer. And that wasn't really the case with me.
Now, I want to ask you about not just what happened at that police station, because you said you were like 16 years old, but that sort of, you remembered everything, and that really helped you in a way when you became a beat reporter at the LA Times? You left Florida, you left Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, but I first worked for my hometown paper, and I went back into that detective bureau, and especially a lot of the detectives were still there. This was like about 7 years later, including the guy who I was kind of attached to on that story, on that investigation. He was still there. And so I was kind of welcomed in. I had a real easy access because it was kind of small town, and wrote some good stories, and that ended up with me getting an offer to come out here to Los Angeles.
Wow. Now, would you say that was the best thing that you ever did?
Yeah,
I
mean, it was a tough choice, but I had a lot of family in Florida, moving 2,000 miles away, but I just felt like it would click for me. I did know I wanted to try to write crime novels, and like I mentioned, Raymond Chandler, Joseph Wambaugh, Ross McDonald, the guys that influenced me the most happened to write about Los Angeles. So when I got this offer, I had to talk it over with family and my wife and so forth, but it was pretty much a no-brainer for me.
I think that's what really so many people, well, people obviously that live here, they really connect with your novels and the characters, because the city of Los Angeles is about as much as an actor,
right,
as the characters.
Definitely, my stories are built around the city. I mean, people, I think, love books because of the characters, but you can delineate character with how they react to their town or the land. So I always say the city of Los Angeles is a character, but it's really a vehicle for saying who Harry Bosch is, or Mickey Haller, or Renée Ballard. So it's very important, and I've been very lucky. I did come out here as a reporter, and as you know, that makes you a quick study of a place.
Right, right. Well, I mean, every piece of wherever the scenes are, especially since they come to life on streaming and what have you. That to me adds more interest, because you also try to recognize, oh yeah, that's at that restaurant, that's a City Hall. I know exactly where that staircase is. I know where that stairwell where they went through.
And we try to be, unlike most TV, we try to be geographically correct. In other words, if you're going down to 101, you exit on Broadway or something, you don't like take a turn and there you are at the Santa Monica Pier, like you see on movies and a lot of shows. We try to be very realistic and all that.
Well, you certainly are. Now let's talk about Bosch for a minute. You wrote your first novel in 1992 with Bosch. It was called The Black Echo.
Yep.
How'd that come about?
It's funny, I came out here in '87 and to work for the LA Times, and there had just been a bank heist where, you might remember this.
The Bank of America?
Yeah, they tunneled and went up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really my story, but I was the new guy, and my editor showed me the newspaper. It had just happened over the weekend before I started. And he said, what would you do? How would you handle this story? And it was kind of a test. So I was aware of that. And then later, as I'm covering cops and going around to police stations, I got to sit in on a briefing on that caper. Never been solved, by the way. And that became the foundation of the Black Echo. I just thought of, that would be the crime, and then I'd have to create a detective that hopefully people would want to ride through a 400-page book. And that's where Harry came from.
Wow. Now, Bosch is named after a Dutch painter?
Yeah, Hieronymus Bosch.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
I studied him in college. It was like random. I had a humanities class, and Hieronymus Bosch paintings are very metaphorical. They're about the wages of good and bad, wages of sin, that kind of stuff. And so years later, again, I knew it was about character from my reading, character. So, never miss a chance to say something about character. And what about a mysterious name? That works too. So that's where that came from.
Wow. Your characters are, I'm going to say wonderful, but they're also,
You can say that.
okay,
Thank you.
they are.
Wow.
They're complex and they're flawed, but we've fallen in love with them over the decades. How'd that happen? You created these characters?
I just think, I always used to say this when I do a book signing, how many people here have solved a murder, and like no one raises their hand. So you're writing about something that's alien to most people, so you got to find the connections where they understand or where they connect, and they almost surreptitiously nod their head. And you can do that through politics, you can do that through bureaucracy, because we've all had to deal with those kind of frustrations. You can do it with the traffic in LA. There's all kinds of ways of connecting reader to a character who is doing something that's really outside of their circle of knowledge and experience.
Well, I like, yeah, a lot of people can actually, find themselves in the same position in terms of, like the Mickey Haller character, Bosch. I mean, they're all divorcees, and they have kids, they have girls, they have daughters. Was that on purpose?
Yeah, I mean, I'm.
Because you have a daughter.
Yeah. I take wherever I can get, and so yeah, Mickey Haller and Harry Bosch happen to have daughters who are the same age as my own daughter, and that's by design, because I had this research subject living in my house, and so many of the things that those daughters say or text, mostly text, to their fathers, I've gotten those kind of texts.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. And again, most people can, look at those characters and go, yeah, okay, I can relate to that in some form
Yeah,
or
that's another
fashion.
way of doing it.
Did you get ideas for these characters also from being at the police station? Like Ballard, for example?
Yeah,
Detective?
Ballard is a one-to-one inspiration. She's based on Mitzi Roberts, who, until earlier this year when she retired, she ran the cold case unit for the LAPD. And I've always admired her. I've known her for like 20-some years. And yeah, so eventually I said, look, I'm going to write a character that's, inspired by you. I hope you're okay with that. And what's good is she said, yeah, I'm okay with it, but I want to make sure you do it right. So now I have her vet my books before they're even published. And that's worked out really well, because she makes them better. She often says, like, I wouldn't say this, or I wouldn't do it that way. I would do this. And so that gives another layer of accuracy when I take her advice.
That is so real, so real. As we mentioned, you've been writing these novels for years, but what motivates you to continue? What inspires you? I hear about authors, and I'm sure you have, way more than I have, just in terms of, well, I got this writer's block, or I just needed to take several years off and then come back to it. Not you.
Well, I think that might be the newspaper experience, because you can't go to the boss, the city editor, and say, I don't have it today, boss.
Right.
You're not going to keep your job very long if you do that. Right. So I think I got a work ethic. I was a journalist for 15 years, so I was writing all the time. I was on crime beats, and in Los Angeles, you never go wanting, and also in South Florida. So yeah, I have never had writer's block, thankfully, and. But also, I've been given this amazing opportunity, and you really, and we've kind of talked about this before, that there's a mixture of luck and talent, and if you understand that, then you got to treat it with respect. It's almost as something sacred, and so I don't take a year off or anything like that, not yet at least. And it's great work if you can get it. I mean, I get to work at home. I get to pursue what I want to pursue in terms of research and writing, and I couldn't think of a better way to live my life.
How long does it take you to write a book?
It's funny. I would say generally my quick answer is about 11 months, but every now and then I'll get a story that really flows, and so I've written books very quickly. I've written books like in as short as 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
And I think there's a critical community out there who might think really good stuff has to take a long time, but I've found the stuff I write fastest is usually my best stuff.
Is there a time of day that's best for you? You feel
Yeah, I
you're
like to
most
get up-
creative?
Yeah, I like to get up while it's still dark, and I kind of feel like I'm the only one around, and in the city. I'm the only one awake in the city, but it's really just my neighborhood probably. But the quiet, of a cup of tea and maybe some jazz music, I just am very creative.
I was going to ask you about that. When you just said that, Michael, you made me think about Bosch in his home, overlooking the city,
Yeah.
listening to jazz music.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, that's a mixture of things. I knew I wanted in the early days to have him have some kind of view where he can contemplate the city that he's protecting. And the jazz was my dad's music. I grew up as like a rock and roll type guy, but I just thought a loner type detective, jazz would be the soundtrack of his life.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that too, personally, I have to say that. Is there a major character that you relate to most?
Yeah, and of course I don't write about him a lot. I have written a few books about a journalist named Jack McAvoy. And the first one I wrote was when I retired from the LA Times in journalism. I kind of got out my feelings about it. That was back in the 90s, but I brought him back a couple times. And he's in the new book as well.
Okay, well, the new book. I'm going to come back to some other questions, but let's talk about the new book while we have you.
Sure.
That's not it. You've already written that. We need you to sign that for someone, but that's one
Okay.
of the books that I don't have. But this is set where?
It's called The Proving Ground, and it's mostly a courtroom. It's a civil court trial where Mickey Haller, the Lincoln lawyer, is kind of moving in a new direction, and he's suing an AI company. And I've always used Jack McAvoy, the reporter, in books where I explore some new technology. Like way back in the early 90s when I first wrote about him, it was about this new thing called the internet. And I've had him books about the unregulated DNA analytics business, data storage, all kinds of technological things. So now with AI, I wanted it to be a courtroom drama, so it's Mickey Haller, but he brings in Jack as kind of his researcher and a guy who can tell him about how technology advances or it gets sideways. So Jack plays a big part in The Proving Ground.
So you did a lot of research then on this AI.
Yeah,
stuff
I
that we've
mean,
been talking about.
it's not hard to do because it seems to be every story seems to be about it, and and AI is going to revolutionize the world in many, many good ways. Medicine, for example, and so forth. But there's these chatbots that they sell to kids have led to several cases where things have gone awry.
Unfortunate cases, yeah.
And there's not a lot of government regulation on it. So that was my starting point. I read about this teenager who, this was from the UK actually, jumped over a wall at Windsor Palace with a bow and arrow, and he was looking for the Queen.
Oh.
And it was all because a chatbot allegedly told him this is a good thing.
That's what he could do?
Yeah. And that was the first one of these things. And now, of course, there's been a lot of them where kids, with the encouragement of their chatbot friend, have killed themselves and things like that. So that to me is I don't want to be exploitive about that, but I want to use that as a way of explaining this is where we're at in society, and and maybe we should have better guardrails.
Oh, that's what I hope that comes to a series. I hope that's
Yeah, I hope
brought to
I
the
can.
screen. I bet you do
Another
too, huh?
season of Lincoln Lawyer. I wouldn't complain.
Yes. Lincoln Lawyer, Elliot Gould is one of the characters in Lincoln Lawyer, but there is also a special connection with Elliot Gould. You saw him earlier in your life. One of your favorite films, right?
I mean, this goes back to where I mentioned Raymond Chandler. So I was in college. This was like 1975, and I went to the dollar movie night on the Mondays, which the film school would send someone over and they'd lead a discussion after the film. So I saw The Long Goodbye. It was Robert Altman directed version of a Raymond Chandler book, and Elliot Gould was Philip Marlowe, and it struck me, and that led me to the Chandler books. I read all them, and that led me to go home and tell my dad, I want to do this, not what you're doing.
Aww.
So it's an amazing, again, lucky me. It's this amazing closing of a circle that decades later, Elliot Gould's in one of my shows.
Yeah, that's really cool. Most of us really appreciated that because we hadn't seen him in such a long time. So I love how you bring a lot of things full circle. This book, since we're talking about the latest Proving Ground, which sounds fascinating, but this came out earlier this year too.
Yeah.
And our beautiful Catalina Island.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that went fast. That's why I have 2 books this year. But I'd known for a long time that they have one it's under sheriff's jurisdiction, that island, and they have one detective out there. They have other patrolling deputies, but one detective, and that person has to handle everything from small to big. And that's a fascinating thing to me. That's like high noon. With the lone sheriff out there. And so I've known about it for a while. I wrote a short story about it, and then I decided that was a mistake, because I should have written a whole novel, so I ended up doing that.
I think when we first talked off camera, I talked about reading some of your works. But with the streaming, do you find that more people may stream first and find out actually about who you are and what you've written, and then they go back and read your books?
Yeah, I mean, I have no empirical data. I just have anecdotal knowledge. I do book signings a few times a year, and I've, uncounted times people said, I discovered you through that show or that show, or that movie. And so, yeah, I mean, in a way, I'm a book writer at heart. I mean, all the TV stuff is great. But to me, it's like the TV shows are like a commercial for the books. And I think it's worked out that way.
Now, do you write thinking with TV in mind? I know you didn't before.
The big influence has been in spreading the story out, because, the early Harry Bosch books, you see every page through his eyes. And then when they started adapting those books, they said, we have to give other characters life, because we can't have the actor in every scene. Not only would it could possibly get boring, but the actor he couldn't handle 5 days of 16-hour days. So they created, they took characters that had no life on my pages, and I admit that, and gave them fuller lives. And I think that was a really good lesson. And more recently, my books jump around with other characters, and I develop more of the side characters than I ever did before.
Although I must say, Michael, many of us, we could see Titus Welliver, all throughout the series. That, of course, puts a lot on him. Did you actually cast him for the Amazon series?
I had a big hand in it, but I had no experience, so I was very hesitant to it's kind of like you're going to pat you on the head and say, go back and write another book. We'll handle this. So at the very first casting meeting, I mentioned him because I had seen him as a guest role on a TV show, and he was playing a guy who had PTSD, and he did it so well without having to say, hey, I have PTSD. You could see something going on behind his eyes, and that's what we needed with Harry Bosch, because he doesn't say a lot in the books. And they're very interior books, what he's thinking and so forth. And so I threw him out there, and then we went down this path of auditioning many people. We didn't get to talk to him because he was making a film in China. And then he wrapped that film and came back, and we still hadn't found Harry Bosch, so we got to see him, and he came in, auditioned, and he got it right on the spot.
Wow.
He got the job.
Yeah, and he did, and then Bosch Legacy after that. He's made appearances, of course, in Lincoln Lawyer.
In Ballard, too.
And Ballard.
Yeah.
You were obviously, when Michael McConaughey did the movie about Lincoln Lawyer.
Right.
Right. That was fascinating too. I think that's what got everybody excited when they learned that it was going to be a streaming series, besides reading the book.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm so lucky. I had, you know, a major movie star play this character, Matthew McConaughey, and then I have Manuel playing him on Netflix, and you know, they're both excellent in taking this role in different ways, and of course I get the benefit of that, but very happy with everything.
This is a funny question. If you had dinner, and you probably have, but let's just say, can you say something about which character you would really love to have dinner with?
My own characters?
Well, Bosch.
Harry Bosch is kind of a taciturn guy who I think he'd be intimidating to have a nice dinner with, so I'll leave Bosch off. I kind of feel like I have had dinner with Ballard because, as I said, she's completely inspired by one person, Mitzi Roberts. In fact, I'm having dinner with her tonight.
Wow.
So, you know, so that happens kind of routinely. But, you know, the two portrayals we've seen of Mickey Haller are, both of them are really good, but also different from the books. So maybe the Mickey Haller from the book would be a fun guy to have dinner with.
Yeah, or it's certainly have dinner. And the reason I say that, I like how it's based, he's at a restaurant. I mean, he's a foodie.
Yeah.
Right, so he does love to eat. There's no question about that. And that's another, when you see all these different places in Los Angeles, you go, oh yeah, I want to try that. I've never been there before.
Yeah, on the show and in the books, we never make up a restaurant. You know, we always film in the real places or mention the real places. We have in the next season that comes out in February, we have Nancy Silverton, the chef in Mozza, is in it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we have a really good scene with Elliot Gould there. It was fun to do.
Oh, terrific. Now, and I know this is another question which is like, okay, that's basic journalism 101. Out of all the characters, well, the books, is there a favorite?
You know what? I try not to have a favorite, but I can't help it because, you know, I've been writing about Harry Bosch. I've been so lucky for going on 30 plus years. So he's the guy who brought me here. So I think he'll always be my favorite.
Oh, I'm glad then, because I almost felt bad asking you that. I'm like, I get asked that all the time.
No, not really. But I do like them all. But yeah, I mean, I put it this way. Whenever I'm writing my last book, I hope it's about Harry Bosch.
Oh, that's really good. Okay. Well, what is in the future, the near future for you?
Well, I'm coming back to this guy.
Okay.
I'll have a book about him next year. And then I don't think too far ahead. That's all I can tell you. I hopefully get back to a Bosch and Ballard type hybrid after that, but I don't know for sure. I'm just concentrating on the next book with Stilwell here.
Okay. And this is your genre. It will be about crime, mystery. It's not like Michael Connelly is going to go off in another direction, or is there something else that you thought you might want to write about?
Yeah, I thought about that a lot, and I just feel like I'm very lucky in my position here. The crime story is just a framework where you can write about anything, explore anything, you know, AI, whatever. So I'm very satisfied to kind of stay there. So I don't think I'm gonna, you know, read any about dragons or anything like that in my books.
No Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And obviously you're working on something, you say, for next year, so you're going to continue until you feel like, well, I may not want to write.
Yeah, I mean, it's great work if you can get it, so why not do it? So yeah, I'm having a good time, and like I said, I pretty much can order my life the way I want to, and so as long as that keeps up, I'll be writing these stories.
Wow, that's everybody's dream, or at least it should be. Well, I want to thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
For coming today. It's been such a pleasure, and as I said, I'm such a big fan, so I'm going to look forward to the next project, and I'll be tuning in February when Lincoln Lawyer comes back.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching The Conversation with Pat Harvey. And make sure that you check our YouTube page for future episodes.